Okay, awesome. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ana Leon, and I work with the Appalachian Center for Economic Networks. And today we are gonna have this webinar to talk about human resources, market management, and internal communications strategy. So, to start, I would like everyone to introduce themselves and share where are they located, which is your store. And for today, I have prepared a long list of questions because I feel like this is a topic that we can expand a lot. So we might have part one and part two if we don't get to cover everything, because I really also want to give the opportunity for everyone who's here to use this space to answer those questions to I don't know, maybe not necessarily issues, but like the things that you would like some support to understand better how other stores are managing their staff. So, yeah, with that being said, I'm just gonna call on people to make things easier. So, Erin, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Erin Harvey from Keller Market House, and we are located in Lancaster, Ohio. How much intro did you want us to do, Anna?
I think that is good for now, and then again, yeah, I as we go. And if they're more like within a topic that I bring up, if there's a question that people might have, please raise your hand and speak up so we can maybe dive deeper in that particular topic. So Robin from Public Market,
Yeah, hi, I'm Robin Davis. I run the public market here in Wheeling, West Virginia.
awesome. Kate,
Good morning. I'm Kate. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Local Roots in Worcester, Ohio.
fantastic. Rob,
Hey everybody, my name is Robert Trombley. I'm the market manager for the Wild Ramp in Huntington, West Virginia.
awesome. And then Megan.
Hello, I'm Megan Loveland. I've been with AceNet since 2015 as the Programs and Communications Coordinator. I support programming, brand development, organizational branding and communications, regional brand initiatives. I manage our website, e-newsletters, social media, create digital content, etc.
Great. And Leslie.
So much that Megan does. She's also been very instrumental in assisting all the partners on this LFPP journey we've been on. So Leslie Scheller, Director of Programs at the Appalachian Center for Economic Networks. And just again, as always, thrilled to be with you guys this morning. I feel like the information that we've been amassing from all the learning and all the experience is really going to help the field overall. So thank you for that.
And I'm seeing a couple more people who just joined. So Avery, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Avery Snyder. I am the multimedia designer at AceNet. So I do a lot of direct one-on-one technical assistance with entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Great. Jody, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jody Adams. I'm the executive director of Grow Ohio Valley. Um, yeah, in Wheeling, West Virginia. Thank you.
Awesome. And Virginia, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm Virginia McGill. I'm the market manager at Keller Market in Lancaster, Ohio.
Awesome. All right. So to start, the first section that I would like to cover today is about staffing structure and organizational roles. So again, I will probably be calling on people so we can have some order. But I'm curious to hear what staffing positions are essential for, in your opinion, and what you've seen are the most important for the success of the market. So maybe Robin, can you tell us from your experience, what do you think are the most important positions or like the key, the essential ones?
Yeah, I know at the market we have our kitchen manager who does everything back in the kitchen and pretty much monitors his own budget and stuff like that. So that's really important. I depend on him a lot. And then I'm the market manager. I oversee all the other roles. Under that, we have our sorry, social media and marketing manager who does all of our community outreach and all the marketing, event planning, things like that. It's a big one. And now we have an assistant manager who oversees the sales floor, like day-to-day operations, does all the training and helps with ordering and inventory. Aside from that, just sales associate is our overall blanket statement for everybody that does everything else on the sales floor. Yeah. Jody, is there any? I know you
Yeah,
have to weigh in there.
I would say vendor responsibilities.
Yeah.
So it's it's kind of a technical name change that we just chose. But we typically have a vendor coordinator or vendor manager. We're likely going to do something at Grow Ohio Valley where there's a vendor coordinator that manages the CSA pharmacy programs, because those are the same vendors and then vendors at the public market. But until then, and almost since a few weeks ago, we did have a vendor coordinator. The assistant manager will take over, and Robin will keep a lot of the vendor relationships and vendor management. Um, I think we've learned from the past that we've had such like a large amount of turnover in the vendor manager role. I'm not sure why that role in particular, but it it makes a negative impact on the vendors, I think, and then the overall store. So Robin having those relationships really close to her, if someone leaves, it's not as bad of a hit. And then with the assistant manager coming on, same thing there. Maddie, who's the assistant manager, will also have those relationships held close. And so, we're hopefully planning for less turnover for those vendors, so that they can continue to build on these relationships and their business.
Yeah, we've been operating that one with Maddie doing the day-to-day communications of like, hey, we need these eggs, seeing who's delivering what day, and then I do all the rest of it with the payouts and the sales tracking and kitchen coordinating, things like that with the vendors. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Kate?
Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm the best person to speak about this at Local Roots. I'm not, I don't manage people necessarily. I do manage projects, but we have Adam as our executive director. We don't really have a manager, which I think you guys probably knew we advertised for one a while back, but then never filled the role and then kind of removed the posting. So I'm not really sure what the long-term growth goal is for that. But we do have an artisan manager who manages the artisan producers, and then we have a food producer, or more of a product, I should say, product manager than a producer manager, like in charge of ordering and managing the products on the shelves. We have a kitchen manager who manages all of the catering, the day-to-day oversight of all the chefs that work out of our shared use commercial kitchen space. And she wears lots of different hats and works a lot. And so we brought in, I think it was last fall, someone to assist her in implementing new systems to help make things a bit more streamlined and organized, because it was a lot of paper and pencil happening, and not, I would say, like, not taking full advantage of online systems, and she just doesn't have the time. And so someone came in who was really tech savvy and implemented some new systems utilizing some outside websites that would, for example, like chefs who wanted to rent or set up a schedule, an online system for scheduling the chefs in the kitchen. Um, Other things that she did was breaking apart all of the recipes that we make so that we could get more detailed costing on the ingredients, because a lot of it was sort of just guessed. So more like record keeping and data collecting. So she came in and developed all these systems, but now she's kind of, now that the systems are in place, she's kind of taken a step back. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? And then we have like our day-to-day staffing, people who run the register. And then we have someone in shipping and receiving who unpacks the boxes as they come in and puts them on the shelves. And then I manage the food subscription, special events, projects, special orders. I do some marketing and outreach and promotional stuff. And then our social media manager is contract, so she's not internal. So a lot of that is, us kind of feeding her content or things we want to do online. And she does our newsletter every week, and she has for a long time. So she has a pretty intimate knowledge of our organization. I think that's it for us. Feel like we could probably use a manager who's in the market all the time. But we kind of just, as a lot of us are, we're sort of grassroots, doing what we can, jump in, because we don't offer benefits. So it's kind of hard to find. Do you guys all offer benefits to your managers? No. Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to find the right person who can fit that role.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That makes it challenging. It's needed to find a person like with the passion and like maybe someone else in like their household that is providing the health insurance or something like that.
Right. It's someone who believes in the mission, who's passionate about what we do, but who maybe has a life partner or, yeah, exactly. It's hard. But anyway,
Yeah. Erin,
Yeah, heard a lot of things that sounded kind of familiar. We've really been experiencing a lot of growth over the last few years, so bringing on a lot of new people, and it's kind of constantly evolving what to do with them. I'd say there's kind of this tension between wanting people to specialize a little more and take advantage of their particular skills and talents, but also kind of needing everybody to know how to do everything and be cross-trained. Because while we do have a lot of really wonderful, passionate people, we've not really had a lot of people that were interested in a full-time job. So it hasn't, or we weren't able to afford to bring on a full-time person when we needed somebody. So we have a director. I'm the director, and then Virginia, who's our market manager. And until very recently, those were the only two full-time positions we had. And for better or worse, we kind of split up the week so that there tends to be one of us in the market on any given day. But then there's also, we really struggle between removing ourselves to do the manager level tasks, but then also still kind of needing to be involved in the day to day in a managerial role. And so we created a position in the last few years, like a market coordinator, who's somebody that's working at least half time and has a little bit more responsibility for like opening and closing and staying on top of all the tasks and trying to coordinate other employees. And then I guess we would have just, a cashier or storekeeper would be somebody who's more like running the register. Although at this point, most of those folks have kind of reached that coordinator level. And we did just bring on a third full-time person who shares responsibility for our farmers market and in the market house. Virginia, do you want to chime in on anything?
Yeah, I'll just say that it's been a evolutionary process. Like Aaron was saying, like wanting other people to kind of step up and specialize in something like inventory management or to kind of take a more active role with vendors. Um, but still kind of like keep everything balanced and make sure, customer service is still covered. So we've been really making a lot of changes in the last year, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
And I guess what I'm hearing is that you, like Erin and Virginia, you split it the week because you want to have a person that can kind of like fill in if like someone else in the staff it's like needs to go, or like you both are the ones who like basically know how to run the store. Like, so if there's, yeah, if there's a gap, or if like one of the employees cannot come that day, either one of you can fulfill that position. Is that how it's working right now?
Basically, yeah. And then also if they have a question that they can't figure out the answer to, like there's a point of contact there
Mhm.
at any given day. But most of them are pretty self-sufficient, but we're there as needed.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, Rob.
Yeah, so for the wild ramp, it's actually pretty interesting because we've been in transition in multiple different ways. So um, right now, I'll tell you how we're operating, and we're kind of in the midst of changing it a little bit. But right now, we have a market manager, which is me, and then under me we have kind of more specialized market employees now. Over the years, they got we used to have like manager roles, but now we just kind of paid everybody more. It's almost like the model where when I worked at Target, where they switched from minimum wage to 15 an hour, where they kind of combined roles and said, hey, we're going to have more responsibility, but you're getting paid more, and we're going to have we do actually have benefits that we offer. So we told them like those things are coming with the responsibility though. So we saw if that was something they were willing to do, and then they continued employment with Coalfield, and we switched over when they said they were willing to do that. So we have a full-time market associate, and then two part-time. And the full-time one, her specialty role is social media, and I help everybody with their specialty roles. It's not all on their shoulders. They just do like, I guess I would say like the meat of the work. Well, and then we meet about like kind of the higher level stuff and planning and coordinating. So she does the social media. Then my other part-time employee, he does the inventory and ordering for wholesale products. Um, and then my other part-time employee does like vendor management with me, kind of like the heavier side of the vendor management. All of us kind of do the vendor management, but they do like the stuff that's more computer system involved. They're more involved in like the retail edge that we use. And then any kid events. So the Wild Ramp is known for partnering with events with children, like at the Children's Museum and stuff like that. So they kind of handle like book readings and stuff like that. But I would say we're going to be changing here soon because we're integrating the food hub into like the Wild Ramp a bit and workforce development. So that's all going to be changing. But I would say if something's missing, it would be when Shelly was there doing it, she was really great at like the director, higher level, like grant stuff. But we used to have like a market, like a manager in there that was somebody mentioned like an on the ground, on the floor, day to day part of the operations. That piece was kind of missing over the past year, which I'm really, really good at. But now we're kind of back at the grant side of things and the higher level director stuff. So we're kind of integrating more of like the refresh team that's part of Coalfield as well to help pick up those pieces. So yeah, it's a little complicated, but that's how we're operating currently, how we've operated before, and kind of what we're looking at in the future.
I see. Yeah. That makes sense, but yeah, I'm sure that it's a little bit challenging right now with all that transitioning. But before we continue with a next question, I just want to give everyone a chance to ask a question yourself, if at this point, at this stage, if there's something you're curious about the other stores.
This is maybe kind of getting into the nitty gritty, and I don't know if we'll get to this later, but I'm curious, like what mechanisms you have for communicating with everyone. Like, are you having weekly team meetings with certain people, or um, how are like day-to-day priorities getting decided, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, I'm also definitely curious to know more about that. And yeah, like what do people use? Do you use email, or like there's some tools like Slack, or just like a group chat, or and yeah, how often do you all meet? If we can start answering that question, maybe Kate,
Yeah, I
would you
was gonna
like?
say I could hop in. Um, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry if you weren't done with your thought. We just implemented this new communication. That's why I was like, oh, I can offer what we're doing. We have a lot of moving parts, with all of our, I'm sure we all do, right? With all the producers that are coming in and out, and maybe a producer will tell someone at the register X, Y, or Z, but that we were finding sometimes not everybody knew what was going on all the time, or things would get lost. So what we started this email that they have open at the register, and it's just called Daily Recap. And it's basically they keep the email open, the body of the email open all day, and they just add things like in a bullet point form as they happen throughout the day. Like so and so producer came in and said that they're going to come back on Thursday and restock, or if a producer has a question, or if I need staff to do something at closing time to prepare for an event like on Friday night for the month of June, I asked that they set up tables for our Meet the Makers on Saturday mornings, that kind of stuff. Or we're running a contest right now about who can sell the most memberships, and we give prizes to the staff every week that I manage that. So I'll update the staff on who won that week and how many memberships they sold during a single shift. Any kind of information we want out there, anything at all. It doesn't have to be related to just one subject, but I think it's been nice so that way you're not receiving 6 emails from 6 different people, but it's all in one location. Because we're finding that some of the younger staff may not even open and read their email. So I think it's kind of a good approach to streamline communication.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's almost like people are taking notes of what is happening, and then it's just there, and like more people are gonna be able to access that information. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd like to add to that if I can.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've noticed recently when I started over at the Wild Ramp with the staff, communication was an issue when I got there, and it was kind of just like so and so was telling so and so, and well, I forgot to tell them this, or I wrote it down and it got lost. And there was one employee that was kind of doing like, and I tried to overcomplicate it because I worked for larger organizations before, and I was like, oh, we should do teams, we should do this, and I quickly found out that the day-to-day staff are the ones that, like you were saying with that running recap email, that they just leave the body open. They're the ones that day to day are like seeing everything, doing everything, and they're processing all that stuff, so they kind of need to be making each other's to-dos a lot of the time, or plugging me in when I come into the market. And I found one employee was doing a notepad where they just had notes open and was just doing exactly what you were talking about. And we just implemented that for everybody, and it seemed to be the easiest thing. And when you caught a breath and you're like, oh, I have a minute to do something, you just pull up the running notepad. So I just thought it was interesting. You're talking about that running email. That's what we landed on kind of too, is just that it's open all the time on the desktop. And yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention whoever closes hits send at the end of the day. So it could be a lot of people's notes in it. And so at the end of the bullet point, sometimes it's not signed by any particular person. It could just be someone at the register. But if it's something for me, I usually write my name so they know who's sending the message. But yeah, I think it's a more efficient way to communicate, I guess.
And am I guessing also like it's the responsibility of the person who's opening the store to start the new email?
Yep.
Uh, yeah, that makes sense. And something else that I'm curious, how often do you all have staff meetings, or like each department, or like do you know how often maybe Adam is meeting with certain people?
We don't really have a lot of meetings. I mean, we will, like Adam, myself, Sarah, we will have meetings sometimes, but we have, for those of you who've been to our market, it's a small shared use office space. So usually we can just talk to each other in person. But in terms of like full staff meetings, we don't really have those.
Okay, yeah. And what about you, Rob? Are there any meetings happening?
Yeah. So when I came over from Refresh to the Ramp, we had weekly meetings over at Refresh, and I thought that was a little too much for the Wild Ramp. And we quickly found out like most of the stuff was day to day that we were talking to each other about anyways. So weekly seemed a little bit of an overkill, but we noticed that staff members might have like had something they wanted to like say and get off their chest, or maybe didn't get the chance to get that day because somebody wasn't in and that was the person they needed to talk to. So I've moved to monthly, and that's gone pretty well so far. Just started doing that not long ago. And I also do monthly check-ins with each individual to try to catch those things where when we're in the market, we're just busy and they might not get to say everything they feel like they want or need to say because somebody's at the register or something like that. So we've been doing monthly check-ins and monthly team meetings.
Yeah. And are those monthly check-ins like an hour long, or is it like a 15-minute, 30-minute?
The check-ins, I try to do the meetings longer, about an hour, but
Mhm.
the check-ins are more like 15 to 30 minutes, very
Yeah.
high level stuff. So
Yeah, that's what I imagine. Robin, yeah.
Yeah, now I was gonna say we don't do a running email, but we have a binder with what we call our daily action plans that we do is stand up whoever's on staff on the floor each day. And it has a section of like communications from the shift before, who all's working each day, like what areas they're working on, and then we write out all the like priority tasks in there. And then there's a section for like restock. We keep a local running backstock for meat and produce because we have to run all the way outside. So it's just nice to have a handwritten one inside. And any deliveries coming that day or the next day. And we do all of that communication through our vendor phone. And it's just a cell phone that stays at the front register or with whoever's manager on duty. And they answer any communication coming from text or our higher level membership people. And they'll communicate that either directly to the person via text on staff or in the daily action plan. So everybody comes in and checks those things constantly. And then we use all of the overall store email now is all centralized to just one email instead of like several different managers having specialized. Everybody communicates to this one just public market email, which has helped. So everybody, no matter who's coming in or where, what, they can check in on what's been said and communicated in each spot. We for day-to-day stuff, we just keep a running group text. And I tell my part-timers you can mute it when you're not here, but maybe like 5, 10 minutes like before your shift, flip through, see if there's anything you missed. But yeah, everybody, that one works for us pretty well, just the group chat. And then I have one-on-ones weekly with each member of management at the store. And we do a monthly all member manager meeting. And then with Grow Ohio Valley, we do quarterly leadership meetings too.
Sorry. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and what about you, Erin and Virginia?
Very similar, except ours is a spreadsheet. We use Google Drive for like everything. So we have a Google sheet, we call it the daily doc. So there's a section for to-dos and also a section for notes, and anybody can plug something in, and everybody's expected to check into that when they start their shift. And it's worked really well. Like everybody has really taken advantage of it, I would say, and even added some things. So like where we used to have more like on paper dry erase kind of task lists, like we've moved those into it. So everybody's looking just all in the same place. And then we also use it to record like sales numbers at the end of the night. We like, I think Virginia and I, if we're not there, we find it really helpful to have it virtual because we can add things or, check in even if we're not on site. And then we have a shared email that's structured so that like we all have our own individual emails, but everybody is also getting a copy of or can like log into the info email address. And so we tell vendors to use that for the quickest response. And then like anybody and everybody is responding from there. And so if we need to see the conversation, we can, it's not like trapped away in somebody's inbox.
Yeah. And you're saying that that has been working well, like you haven't had any issues with it so far. You were just more curious what other people did.
Like that part, that kind of communication's been working really well for us. We struggle with fitting in meetings. So I was wondering like what sort of cadence worked well for people. Like Virginia and I overlap Mondays and Fridays. So we tend to pack a lot of our communications in. And then, if staff are working that day, we can pull them in and schedule with them if we need to, but they don't all work those days. And those also tend to be very busy days. So sometimes we struggle. We do have quarterly all staff meetings.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. And something else that I'm curious about how you all manage. So, like within your staff, like how detailed are your job descriptions? And like how do you avoid the overlap or confusion between staff responsibilities? Because I'm guessing these could be like something that could potentially be problematic or yeah, I'm curious about that. Maybe we can start with Kate.
I would say from what I know, and I don't have a probably as deep a level of knowledge on this question as Adam or would, but the people who are running the register and opening and closing the store, there's very specific, they have a task list that they have to check off certain times of the day. There's very specific roles and responsibilities um, within their shifts that they are very clearly communicated to about, but there are other positions here that are very autonomous and there is I would say a assumed um, level of you should lean into your strengths and we'll support you. And again, I just feel like it's sort of a grassroots organization. So there's not like anyone hovering over, say, Christine, our kitchen manager slash chef. There's not anyone hovering over her, telling her what to do every day. She really has the full, I guess, independence and creative control over how she spends her time and when she works and how she schedules catering. Um, so there's pros and cons to that, I'm sure, to every approach, but I feel like there's also a lot of room for growth, personal growth within like my role is one that I can kind of design events and projects how I want to, and they're like, go for it. So I don't know. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah.
Depends on the role.
Yeah. That makes sense. What about you, Robin?
What, I'm sorry, what were we?
No, that's okay. I was asking, so like within your organization, like how detailed are the job descriptions and how do you manage to avoid overlap or confusion between staff responsibilities?
Yeah, I kind of ask everybody on staff here to be able to do what we call like just sales associate. So everybody needs to be able to like run the register. Everybody needs to be able to like do basic like inventory counting, restocking shelves, know how to like print labels for tags and answer immediate like vendor questions, requests, like receiving deliveries, things like that. Um, the overlap, we do pretty good. Like I said, that group chat is our group text is going constantly from the time the store opens to when it closes, and everybody participates in there to prevent some overlap. The meetings that I do, my one-on-ones with each of my managers, that's when we really break down to like the speciality areas, and I make sure to touch base weekly with them to see exactly what they have going on. I do have, like Erin was saying, it keeping those meetings consistent can be a little bit hard, especially when we're doing a lot of the smaller roles with our bigger roles. But even if it's just to stop for 10, 15 minutes and like, hey, like, what do you have this week? Like this, let's hit it. Make sure we have immediate like deadlines and stuff lined up and communicated. It's a lot of just, yeah, checking in with people on the fly to make sure we're all supported and making time for the things that we need to do. The scheduling does get a little bit tight, but a lot
Yeah.
of multitasking.
Yeah, it seems like that's a strategy for many of you, like having someone, like make sure that multiple people are capable of fulfilling those like basic tasks. Yeah, to prevent getting into a moment where, I don't know, yeah, vendor arrives and no one knows what to do with them. Yeah. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, down at the Wild Ramp, just very clear, defined like tasks, daily operations, and roles. And right now, we don't have a lot of staff, so I mean, it's made it a little easier where it's like, well, there's just one person there during this time period, so it's really hard to step on your own toes until the second person comes in to give them a break, etc. So when there are two employees there, it's a pretty short window. But like I mentioned earlier, they have like specialized tasks as part of their role. So somebody knows that if they're like we're out of a wholesale item to put an order in with Brock or myself because he's the one that does the wholesale ordering and inventory because we are mostly a consignment market. So if there is that thing that needs to be ordered, or if there's something social media related or event related, they know that there's specific people to go to for those things. But other than that, just having very clear defined like when we're opening, midday, daily task lists that they go through. We have them both printed out and digital for if somebody has a preference. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about you, Erin?
Well, for better or worse, well, I mean, Virginia and I have a ton of overlap. I think we do okay with like pinch hitting or communicating. And then with everybody else, it's a pretty generalized, like you should be able to do all of these things if you had to. And then we've kind of informally been leaning into different people's strengths, like um, some people are better at the detail of inventory management, and some people are awesome at creating beautiful displays. And so to some degree, we kind of like lean on them to do those. Um, yeah, and Virginia, chime in here too. Like, I think we've kind of evolved to have this sort of language of front of the house tasks and back of the house tasks. And on a given day, you may be fulfilling both of those roles, but having a little bit of kind of like respect and autonomy for like, let this person go in the back and handle an order that showed up, and let's support this person to be able to stay at the register and focus on customer service. Um, it's, it's been a little challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we've had a little bit of friction because almost all of our employees are long term. Like we don't have a lot of turnover. So um, before we were trying to really kind of do the this is front of the house stuff, this is back of the house stuff. There was a little bit of everybody was like, well, I know what I'm supposed to do. Let me do my job. But with the kind of bringing in a little more focus, that's kind of helped that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Um, and okay, so we have like about 15 more minutes. And I have a lot more questions, but again, I want to make sure we are covering the things that you all want to know. So does anyone have another question so far? And yeah, it's okay if not. So some, yeah,
Oh, I
Robin.
was just wondering, a lot of you guys, like, I know most of you are like market managers. How many hours would you say you spend on the sales floor compared to like in office or not just a work off the sales floor? How many hours do you put into the role of like market manager for both of those?
Whoever want to answer that first.
I would say that I feel like for me, I'm still very much out on the sales floor, at least half of my time. I feel like it's out there, which I am. Aaron mentioned that we split the week, so I have weekends. So Saturday is like customer service day. Like there's no, like I can get other things done, but that's the primary focus all day Saturday. But yeah, that's one of the things that I try really hard to find balance on, but I haven't been able to do more than like half and half probably.
Yeah. And Leslie is asking on the chat, like, how much time do you get to connect with customers on sales floor or in maybe other community connections? How often is that?
Yeah, you guys do so many different events too, so it seems like as a manager, a certain responsibility that you shoulder is making sure you're like sometimes the face of those community event connections. So I'm just wondering how much pressure in some ways or time management does that, put on your guys' shoulders?
Yeah, I'll answer kind of both of those at once. For me, I'm also doing the food hub over at Refresh, so I have a lot of balancing going on here. So I try to do like I start my day earlier than most people. I'll just say on average, I start around 7 in the morning. So I'll start there, and depending on what my day looks like is the food hub going to need most of my attention, or is the market? I'll spend the first 2 hours before the market opens either over at the food hub, tasking, getting things ready, or what they need to be, or I'll spend it at the market before open. And then if the market's open and the food hub no longer needs my attention, I will. If the food hub still needs my attention, I'll just stay at the food hub. But then I try to be at the market at least from 9 to 11, and then or 9 to 11:30, 9 to 12, depending on when I take a lunch. Then I take a lunch, and then that's when I try to have like my office hours. Is like after lunch. So, And then events, that's very hard to juggle. I go when I can. I try to do it in a way where I'm working the event so I don't get caught up too much in talking. That's easy to do where I can get lost in a conversation for like an hour and then I can come back. And so I try to find a way to be involved working the event somehow in some capacity where I can break away and go, oh, I have to go do X, Y, and Z. But for the most part, if I'm at my hours or over and I don't have to be at the event and my staff can handle it, I'm usually not there if I don't absolutely have to be.
Yeah. How about you, Kate? How does it look like for local roots?
Um, I think that, sorry, no, you're good. So there's so much background noise here. Sorry. Um, it depends on the person. We typically, I would say like people who are in other roles that are not specifically cashier role or they are not on the floor unless they're needed to be on the needing to be on the floor. Like if somebody calls off, any one of us can fill in. Or if we're just up there on a Saturday and we're trying to engage, sometimes we'll spend time up there, but it's not typically part of our role. And I think maybe that's because we don't have a manager, you know, we have a director who's also traveling a lot doing another job. So during summer months, he's not here that much. Um, and it's not built into my schedule. It's not part of my daily routine to be up there, but I do fill in sometimes, not that often though. Or if I'm standing up there and someone walks by and there's no one's by the register, I'll check them out, easily. We can all do it if we need to. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, typically we're not up there.
Yeah. And for you, Erin and Virginia, I mean, I do know every time you've host something, I've seen you both there very like you have a strong presence, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'd say my strategy is I tend to try to break my tasks up into things that require my like full attention and then things that have to be done in the market house. And I try to spend my mornings at home. And I prioritize those things that I need to do, like computer work and stuff. And then once I go in the market, I feel like uh, all bets are off because like people are showing up. I do need to talk to them. Staff usually have a whole list of questions of things that have come up or messages. And so um, it kind of works. And I don't like, I'm not on the schedule, to cashier or do inventory things, but it's probably just me. I kind of can't help myself sometimes. And like, we've had a lot of training to do lately as well. So, and I think it's like, I mean, there are new systems in place that I don't really know how to do, but I think it's important that I involved at some level so I can understand the workings of that. So like, for example, we just started opening on Sundays and we all take a turn working Sundays. So I'm in that rotation. And so that forces me to know how to like do the daily things. That's been good.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, Robin, I hope that that helped answer your question. Um, And you all have small teams, right? And within that small team, I'm curious, how do you establish accountability while still like maintaining flexibility within this small organization? Like, what strategies are you using for that? And maybe we can start with Rob.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is going to be like particularly interesting in your case because you're managing and like tr being in so many places at the same time. So I was asking within a small team in the store, how do you manage accountability while still providing flexibility for your team?
Yeah, so first off, I would say the hardest thing that we need flexibility on, and it's something that is top of mind because we just had it recently with an event, is when we're planning to take time off with a small team is always the hardest of trying to plan and being flexible with their schedules and whatnot, because everybody gets really used to working the days and the times they work. So when people do take time off and they ask each other, it just kind of, I try to have that reminder of letting people know, like, hey, so and so said yes, that's awesome. I'm glad you get your time off. You're just reminding them, like, sometime it's going to come up in the future where someone's going to ask you, can you do this? We just need to make sure we keep that top of mind. So the flexibility of time seems to be not just for time off, but with everything. But accountability, this is actually one that what I do is I just document everything and I make sure everybody is aware that I'm documenting everything. And we have to be, with time being one of those things, it's like, whether it's somebody showing up late consistently or showing up early consistently, I even document that kind of stuff. Like, man, you're always here ahead of time. You're showing up ready. So just kind of documenting whether it's negative, positive, um, and having those conversations with people. And we have a structured system set up with our HR team too, of if there is anything that needs to be brought to a disciplinary step. And so if you're doing all these things from accountability, even if it's just documenting a conversation of, I've talked to you about this kind of thing, or you've talked to me about this kind of thing, even if it's for personal development for yourself, which I've, had that happen too, where somebody's like, hey, I've talked to you about this. So I would say documenting it and then having clear steps, like once we reach this point or we've talked about it a certain amount of times, or if people aren't consistently, if there's not like an ebb and a flow at that give and take of each other's time and making time for each other so we could all have time off, or maybe make sure we're all working events equally. And part of that too is a training thing. If everybody's not trained and everybody doesn't know how to do things, then we're not going to be able to support each other when we're not there as well. So it's a lot of different things that play into that, but those are all the things that come top of mind.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. What about for you, Robin?
Pretty much the same. If there's ever anything like feedback, we have a structured form of feedback we sort of give that there's a tool Jody was able to give me that helped a lot. And then we document absolutely everything. We do twice a year reviews too of everybody, where we do a self-evaluation, and then I would do like an observed evaluation of their performance up to that point. Yeah, and just looking at things like where there's space for improvement and what they're doing well. Does that answer it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
It's a lot of documenting, just making sure I have it typed down and we both know, like, hey, like we talked about this, like tardies was a real thing for a while, but every time we'd meet, I'd like type something out, document it, we'd all sign it. So we all know like exactly how many times we've had those same conversations and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And what about for you, Kate, at Local Roots?
I'm sorry, there's a lot of drilling. They're removing the county is removing all the glass block on the outside of our building. I don't know if you can hear it. It's very loud. Okay. Um, anyways, um, we I think again, because we don't really have the traditional structure of like a general manager that's like boots on the ground every day. I'm not sure that any of that documenting, I'm hearing other people say, I don't think that that's happening here. If it is, I'm not aware of it. Um, so that typical type of managerial stuff that happens, maybe even at the corporate level, is really just not happening here that I'm aware of.
Yeah, yeah. It's more like case by case, probably something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I feel like we might have a higher turnover in, the register, the people that are working at the register, especially if they're college kids or high school kids, we hire younger people. But I feel like those and other rules stay, you know? Um, so I think it's probably just if something comes up, it's dealt with, or if somebody needs to have a hard conversation, it happens maybe on the side. But I feel like our team typically gels pretty well for the most part. I mean, nothing's ever perfect. That would be impossible, but I do feel like it's a safe, comfortable place to like, you can go to present a concern or an issue. The door is open always.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if that's answering your question, but
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Like every story does it in its own way. So that makes sense. And what about it for you, Erin?
Well, Virginia, do you want to fill this one? You've kind of done the heavy lifting on a lot of our HR stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, so we do tend to be very flexible here, and the whole HR aspect has been evolving. Um, it's been pretty informal for the most part. If conversations need to happen, I do feel like our staff is very comfortable coming to either Erin or I and talking. Um, but there definitely are times that things have had to be like, documented that we're having this conversation, especially around different processes like SNAP and things like that. We are like we try to do like informal kind of check-ins, not anything official, but I feel like constantly we're talking to staff and they're telling us how things are going and we're having those conversations. But we are trying to get more on a like a schedule to do an annual review with everybody, which is new for us. And I've done one so far for our staff, but that's kind of on the calendar for this year.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. And thank you, everyone, for all your answers and sharing with this team. And I have actually like still a lot more questions on hiring and like employee retention and more on internal communication and managing teams and supervision. So, um, I would like to ask you if there were any questions that you all would like to conversate within this team, please send them to me and we can do a part two of the same topic. I think that would be great. And but other than that, thank you so much. We're right on time. And yeah, thank you for all the information that you share. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, you too.